Thought I'd do one that was kind of a little bit less serious in a way, at least not as heavy, about subjects that might not necessarily look like they're connected, but you can kind of connect them. Kind of fictional things somewhat. Fictional or religious. I don't necessarily consider religion to be fiction, but it's a belief. And there's probably some people that believe in things that are widely thought of as fiction. About reincarnation and time travel. Two things that kind of sound like they're not connected. Another little detail too, something I've been meaning to mention for a long time. And this is kind of some movie ideas as well in this. A lot of times there's something that I don't necessarily think is real, but it would make a good movie. One of the things is, I was a guy that I worked with years ago, and I don't know if he's saying he's a military guy. I don't know if he's saying this just to mess with me and the other guy or not, but if he was, it worked. He was talking about reincarnation, and he mentioned something to the effect of coming back as someone in the past. And you're like, what? And you're like, oh my God. That, I mean, if you think about it, that sounds crazy, but is it? That really messed with your head to think about that. And it made me come up with an idea. It's just an idea. I'm not saying this is the way it is or anything like that. What if, this is going religiously, when God created everyone, when God created the beginning of like the planet and all that, what if all the souls that were ever going to exist, he created right then? What if that's what happened? And what if that's what happened? Let's say, was there 8 billion people on the planet? Let's just say he created 50 billion souls. Okay? Because that was one of the things I think George Carlin pointed out in one of his early routines. Well, not real early. I think it's the late 70s. He was talking about reincarnation, where there's more and more people, right? So there'd have to be some new souls, if you're going by that. What if they were always there? They were always there. And they're just getting sort of their assignment at the time. It's an interesting thing to think about. I could see that being part of somebody's belief system. That all the souls that were ever meant to exist, all of them, there's no new souls. All of them were created at the beginning. They weren't necessarily on earth at the same time. But all of them were there. And they're sort of with God. Again, that's sort of religious belief. I'm not trying to shame or creep anybody out that's not religious, but it's kind of part of it. And I kind of looked at, for me, the way I believe things, I don't look at creationism and science being opposed. Like a lot of times I've pitched the idea of it wasn't Adam, it was Atom. Atom. And that makes more sense when one of them splits into the other one. It kind of scientifically makes more sense. Because we don't know what, when it says made in our image, well, we don't know what that image is. Just another way of looking at that. And so that way, it does make sense that you literally, because from the perspective, like even if you're an atheist, okay, let's just say this is a movie. You're not here at the same time as, say, Abraham Lincoln. He's in a grave somewhere, right? So who's to say you can't come back? Because from the terms of an afterlife, what is time? You know, and that's another thing from a George Carlin bit. I guess a lot of this was inspired by him. Um, what is time? It's something, and I have all these thoughts completely sober, by the way. I don't do any kind of drugs or anything like that, and I'm not on any kind of medication other than thyroid medication. But that's one idea I had. I also had an idea of, it's interesting to me. I like time travel movies, but the problem is you can't make them make sense. You know, like you can make all kinds of out there movies with, you know, elves and all kinds of monsters and like Star Wars and all that. It's hard to make a time travel movie make sense. The Terminator ones step all over themselves. Back to the Future does. A lot of them do. It's hard to make it make sense. About the only way you can make any kind of time travel movie make any sense would be you sort of slip into an alternate reality. Like if you go back and change something, you've created a parallel. So the sad thing is, you know, it's kind of the tragedy of the movie, the time travel movie you can make. You really couldn't change it on this plane. You'd have to move it into a different plane. You'd have to create a new plane, a new variant. Because this one couldn't change. Because, like, if you're going to go back and save someone's life, they're already saved, so there's no reason to go back. It doesn't work. It won't hold up. It sort of eats itself. You'd have to sort of create another reality where that person got saved. But I had wondered at one time, it's just kind of a fun little thought. You notice how money keeps changing. Like, that's another issue with time travel movies. Let's say you're going to go back in time. Are you going to buy anything? How? How are you going to buy something? Your money says these dates in it. You'd have to, about the only thing you could do is you could go back a little bit at a time. Like you get yourself the oldest money you could find, and you go back to that date and trade it in for older money, and then go back to a farther date. Otherwise, you have no money. That's something they leave out a lot of these. You couldn't spend any money. All the money in your pocket's got a date from 50 years newer. Nobody's going to take that. And it looks completely different also. And I'd pitch the idea, I'd pitch the notion that that's the reason I keep changing money is to mess up time travel. Because you couldn't just do it in one swoop. You'd have to go back and keep laundering your money, so to speak. That's just a couple ideas about that. Some things that don't really seem like they're connected, but kind of are. And there's probably some movie ideas in that. Somebody will probably get it and mess it up. I'd like to see that kind of looked into. You could definitely make some good movies on that. If it didn't, you know, bother somebody too much about the religion aspect of it, because you kind of have to put that in there to really get the full scale to make it work. Anyway, I think that's all I got on that one. Actually, a little bit of a short video. A few things to think about. Weird little ideas. Trying to be lighthearted and not think about all the heavy things. Sometimes it helps you kind of venture off into that sort of thing.